Hey movie fans! Today, I thought I'd do a new segment that I've actually been wanting to try for quite some time now. It is a history of segment where I take various film topics and just discuss the history of them at more detail than I would in just a regular video. I would take several videos and just make them like kind of a mini-series of a specific movie topic. I posed a question to you guys what you would like to see, and you gave me some great feedback, which I'll use for later videos. But the one that struck me as most interesting that I would start off this series with is history of movie special effects and the evolution of them. So that is what I'll be covering today. Now I'll only be covering part of it. As I said, I won't be covering all the details in one video, but I'll be splitting them up. Without further ado, we have to go all the way back to 1895 with Alfred Clark to where we can find the first hint at movie special effects. Now Alfred Clark, while his name kind of has fallen by the wayside from a film standpoint, he is credited with doing the first special effect when it comes to movies. Now we would laugh at this special effect nowadays as it's rather simple. What he did was he was trying to film a reenactment of the beheading of Mary, Queen of Scots. But how do you behead an actress without actually killing her? So what he did was he had the actress lay down, he had the executioner bring the hammer, not the hammer, you want me to bring the hammer down? Had the axe above his head. As he brought it down, he stopped the camera. He just stopped. What he did then was he switched out the actress playing Mary and brought in a dummy and chopped the dummy's head off. Now we see this a lot in very basic special effects, but back in that day, that was incredibly profound. Now it's super simple. Even I could do it. See? Super simple. Or so it appears to you guys. Ah, that's better. Now the next big innovation when it comes to special effects wouldn't actually come that far down the road. It would come the very next year in 1896. Now this man, however, has been more remembered in the film community. His name is George Méliès. Now George actually was not a filmmaker at first, but he became one of the most legendary filmmakers later. He was actually a magician by trade. And boy, was his movies nothing but sheer magic in and of itself. I know it sounds cliche, but in this case, it really works. Méliès used the same techniques that Alfred did, but everywhere in all of his movies. He made all of his movies big budget affairs. He made his movies more of a blending of theater and stage with film. He would cut things and it would be a special effect. He used a lot of smoke and mirrors. He'd put on these big lavish sets and would cut the camera, finagle around, restart the camera, and it would be a whole different world. And he actually discovered this technique by accident. Something happened to his camera one day while shooting, and when he restarted, it had a whole different look and feel to it than what it previously did. He liked it so much that he just kept it. And he made all of his movies going forward with that technique. Méliès' most famous work, however, is Le Voyage des Lunes, which you actually have seen at least a little snippet of before. That's the animated clip, as you can see here, of a rocket ship, which is a hand-built rocket ship, going off to the moon and hitting the moon in the face, and it's actually a person's face in that moon that they painted around and made a physical set out of. That film still stands today. Now granted, I don't know if we still have the audio, but we still have that video, and it's the earliest special effects that we still have kind of that proof of. The next big innovation when it comes to special effects, we today probably wouldn't even consider a special effect because it's so commonplace, and that's of miniatures. Miniatures are when you like make a little mini model of whatever you need and put it in your movie instead of building a huge set. This was first used in Fritz Lang's 1927 classic, Metropolis. Now Metropolis is one of the founding science fiction films of all time. Without Metropolis, we don't have like any of the science fiction movies we have today. Star Wars took a lot of its inspiration from Metropolis. Star Wars also used a lot of the miniatures. Like when you have the trench battle at the end of A New Hope, that's all miniatures. They blew up miniatures. Now, we don't think about miniatures, but they actually make it so that you can create this whole world on a microscopic budget. Because they're microscopic. You shrink everything down, you just zoom the camera in. It makes it have this whole world that you have in your film, all on a little bitty budget. Phenomenal filming power! Itty bitty living space. However, all of this previously that we've talked about has been in an era of black and white. The next innovation in special effects is even more so than miniatures, and that's of color. We take color for granted now, unless we have some weird movie like The Artist come out and remind us what black and white is like. Color was unheard of back in the day, but when it first came out, boom! It blew up. And the most impactful thing for special effects was that of blue screen, which is still a huge factor today, like Attack of the Clones. All of Attack of the Clones was pretty much blue screen. A blue screen, if you don't know, is when you have a single actor in front of a gigantic blue screen, which I don't have the budget for one, but you've seen them in movie sets. And you can project anything you want on this screen. This was first brought to the main audience's attention in the film The Ten Commandments, when Charlton Heston stands on the rock, spreads his arms, and the sea parts. But instead of there being just the sea, because we can't control the sea, they filmed with special effects on the blue screen, Charlton Heston in front of it, splitting the scene. It went down in the history books as one of the most famous movie scenes of all time. Granted, even if you haven't seen Ten Commandments, you've probably seen the clip of Charlton Heston going whoosh and seeing the massive ocean just split. And that was something completely unheard of at that time. Lastly, for today, we end with stop motion. Now, what is stop motion? Have you ever seen the movie Wallace and Gromit or Nightmare Before Christmas? These movies are stop motion. You have some figure or claymation that you move just a little tiny bit every frame, and it gives the illusion of movement. Now, it's not as common as it used to be for stop motion, but it was huge when it first came out in the world of special effects. The most famous use of stop motion in the world of film was Ray Harryhausen in the film Jason and the Argonauts. The finale of the film is our hero Jason fighting off 7 skeletons of stop motion at the same time. But the way that it's blended together, it makes it look like the hero is actually fighting these skeletons, even though they were filmed separately. They're just little figures that they moved every single frame. But it looked to the audience that Jason was fighting them. Ray Harryhausen was the genius that actually revolutionized stop motion. He did Jason and the Argonauts, as I mentioned, as well as the original Clash of the Titans and a lot of other these famous stop motion movies. He was responsible for a lot of movie monsters with the stop motion. Hence, in the movie Monsters, Inc., the restaurant that Mike and Sully go to that they lose Boo in, if you look at the name, the restaurant is Harryhausen's because they're monsters, and it's a nice little tip of the cap to Ray Harryhausen. Well, that's it for this episode. If you like this bit, then I'll do another one, giving the more modern take on special effects, like computer-generated effects. Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what other histories of you'd like to see me do in the future. And if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe, or find me on Facebook at facebook.com/movieguy17, or on Twitter at nmovieguy17. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals!